guys, it's David Clayton again from GuitarBreakdown.com and all that good stuff. As you can tell by the silliness behind me and on top of my skull, it is Christmas time. So I want to start out by saying happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Feliz Navidad, whatever holiday you are celebrating at the moment. I hope you guys have the best season ever. I want to thank you guys, really, seriously, from the bottom of my heart for making this an awesome year. We started this probably in March or April, and it's just awesome. I've met so many good people through this, and there's so many people following and supporting us, and it's really humbling, actually. It's awesome. With that said, I also want to say, with the holidays coming and everything, just a little thing. I know I talk a lot, so I'll talk a little here. But the holidays, to me, you know, as I get a little older, I start realizing that family, friends are the most important thing. And truly, I mean, it's easy to say, but really, you start realizing, you know, throughout our life, we kind of get a little crazy sometimes with putting stress on ourselves, with trying to make a career, trying to learn an instrument, doing all these things, and all we think about, we get so focused, trying to, just everything we do, trying to make babies and families, and, well, not this guy, but, you know, you just get caught up and wrapped up into this crazy, hectic lifestyle, and sometimes you forget to slow down and enjoy what's really important, which are family and friends and people you love and care about and everything. So that's my preachy thing, but I did want to say that because that's important to me. So hopefully maybe that touches somebody out there to slow down and enjoy what's really important. So anyway, that talky aside, what I want to do today is we're going to do a lesson on my absolute favorite guitar player. I know I've said this before. There's Michael Landau. There's a few, Scott Henderson, that are really my favorite guitar players. But Dann Huff is by far my favorite guitar player. I was introduced to him way back in the 80s, early 90s. And he, one of the biggest session guys back in those days with like Steve Lukather, Michael Landau, Michael Thompson, all those guys. They played on every CD back in the day. And it's because they're just amazing. They can play for the situation. Their guitar tone, their feel, their phrasing is great. And Dan is no exception. Now, the sad part about Dan, probably not for him, but for us as listeners, he stopped really recording as far as playing guitar. He's now more of a producer, and he has been for the last, since the mid-90s. But there's a wealth of CDs out there with his playing on it, and you probably won't even recognize it. In fact, this CD, it's a Christmas CD, and funny enough, I saw this when I bought it. I found it in a gas station, like just on the little counter, and it was a tape back then. So I pulled it out. I saw Christmas music. I pulled it out, looked on the back, and I saw Dann Huff in the credits. And I was just like, man, I got to get this. And it's my favorite Christmas CD. It's got two songs that Dan plays on. This one, Angels We've Heard on High, and then We Three Kings is another one. Now, we're going to get to the other one. I'm hoping to get to it this Christmas season. We're running out of time, but I'm going to try and get that one up too. But if not, regardless, we're going to go over this guitar solo, and this is one of my favorite solos of Dann Huff's, as far as anything outside his band Giant. I mean, again, there's another thing. In the credits, I mean the comments down below, I will write a description about him and some of the albums that I think are amazing. All the Giant stuff is awesome. But this solo is just so good because his tone is amazing, his phrasing is awesome, and it's really pretty straightforward. It's pretty much just pentatonic stuff. But it's the way he phrases and the way he picks and doesn't pick certain notes, and a little bit of chromaticism in there. Really cool. So with all that said, let's get to the lesson. I hope you guys really enjoy this, and we will start the lesson now. Thanks. All right, boys and girls, as Santa would say. Let us break down this guitar solo. We're going to start out by breaking down what key it's in, the chords and all that. I always do that. I didn't have enough time to learn the chord progression to figure out what exactly was going on. So I'm just going to give you kind of a general overview of what's going on beneath this solo. And I'm going to try and do it rather quickly, not just the chord part, but the solo part, because I don't want to take up too much of your holiday time spending with your family and loved ones. But seriously, I'm going to try and make this sort of quick. And there's not a lot to talk about as far as note choices, because it's pretty much straight ahead C minor pentatonic or E flat major pentatonic, whichever way you're looking at it, with the exception of a few things. I will talk about some of the subtleties, because that's a huge key to his playing. I mean, the way he phrases and picks certain things or doesn't, you know, we're going to get into all that. And again, like I said, I'm going to try and make this quick. So, that being said, this is in the key of E flat major, okay? So, or C minor, basically, which is the relative minor. So, if you harmonize an E flat major scale, what you get is an E flat major 7. That's the 1 chord. The 2 chord is an F minor 7 chord. 3 chord is a G minor 7. 4 chord is an A major 7. The 5 chord is a B flat dominant 7 chord, but in this case it's being played as a major chord, so a B flat major chord, to a C minor chord, minor 7 chord, we'll bring it down here, right, to a D diminished chord, back to your 1 chord, which is your E flat major chord, E flat major 7. So what's going on, what I hear when I transcribe this, the first chord sounds like there's a B flat in the bass instead of the 1 chord. So it's starting with maybe the 5 chord, or it's just using the B flat in the bass for this chord. So pretty much it's a B flat major 7. And what I'm hearing is this inversion for the guitar part. Then it goes down a whole step to A major. So it's B flat major 7 to A flat major 7. Right? Now Dan, the way he gets a lot of his tone, he uses a lot of chorus, delay, and all that kind of stuff. But he's got that, he uses a volume pedal to ease these chords in and swell them up and everything. And there's actually a lot of layered tracks in what he does. So anyway, that's enough talk with the chords and all, but I'll try and do another lesson on the chord progression so you know what's going on in this. I just didn't have enough time trying to get this out for the holidays, so sorry about that. Hope you excuse that laziness. Not really laziness, but anyway, on to the solo. The solo begins, again, it's either E major, E flat major pentatonic, or C minor pentatonic. Right? And you know all 5 positions, hopefully. So it starts out with sliding from either the 3rd or 2nd fret on the D string to the 5th fret. So it's going from the 3rd or 2nd fret to the 5th fret on the D string. Then it plays the 3rd to the 5th fret on the G string. So then it hits that G string 5th fret again and slides up to the 7th fret of the G string. So, and it holds that note without vibrato for a little bit. And then at the very end, it slowly bends up to the next pitch in the scale, which is you're on a D note and you go to the E flat note. So you have, and it just slowly does that until the very end, where it finishes the bend pretty quickly, if that makes sense. So, and once it hits that pitch, it stops the note. Then it goes up in arpeggio. It goes from the 6th fret on the B string to the 6th fret on the E string to the 8th fret of the E string and slides up to the 10th fret. So the whole thing so far is. And and then it goes to the 11th fret of the E string. Then it goes behind the, like maybe the 8th fret or the 9th fret, and it slides to the 10th fret again on the E string. So that whole thing is. Then it plays the 11th fret of the B string and slides up to the 13th fret of the B string and sits on that note and adds vibrato. So the whole thing is. It actually hits that 11th fret, I think, 3 times. And then goes to that 13th fret. Then it goes to, again, if you're looking at your minor pentatonic, right, your first position that you usually learn, it goes to the G string, the 10th fret, and the 8th fret. So the whole thing is. And there he just hits that 10th fret once, then he bends up, and it's kind of like a quick thing where he stops the note at the top. And then he plays twice on the 8th fret, and he adds vibrato, and then he slides off. So that whole thing is. I'm sorry. And he bends that up a whole step, by the way. So that whole thing is. And now he bends that up. I don't think he actually reaches the whole step. It's right before he gets to the whole step, that's when he pinches it off. So then he slides off. Then it's here he goes down to this position of C minor pentatonic, or E major pentatonic, E flat major pentatonic. And he's on that 3rd fret or 5th fret of the G string, and he bends it up. Gradually bends that up a whole step, and then he bends it down and pulls off to the 3rd fret. So then he rolls down to the 3rd fret of the D string, and he slides up to the 5th fret of the D string. So, and it's a quick slide. So. Then he goes to the 8th fret, from the 5th fret to the 8th fret on the D string, to the 5th fret on the G string. So that whole thing is. Then he goes down an arpeggio from the 5th fret of the G string to the 5th fret of the D string to the 6th fret of the A string up to the 8th fret of the A string. So the whole thing is. Then he hits that twice, the 8th fret, and pulls off to the 6th fret. And then he slides up from the 8th fret to the 10th fret on the A string. Then he goes 8, 10 on the D string, back down to the 10th fret of the A string, and he lands and ends on that B flat note on the D string, 8th fret. So that whole thing is.